So, before we go to how much 1 pip is, tignan muna natin yung nakikita talaga nating rates, no, whenever you take a look at your charts. Now, if you notice, yung pinapakita sa ating forex quote extends up to the fifth decimal place. For example, dito sa Euro USD, no, yung selling price, 1.15116. Kumbaga may panglima. Yung panglima na yun, ang tawag doon ay pipet, no? It's a fraction of a pip. And normally, we don't pay attention to it too much, no? Especially for starters. Mas maganda kung bilangin nyo na lang yung pips on the fourth decimal place. No? So don't be confused. Just take a look at the fourth decimal place, and that is where our pips will be. No, yung fifth decimal place, that is called the pipet. No, it's a fraction of a pip. You can you kind of negate it, no, for starters. Okay? Now, aside from that, mapapansin nyo po na dalawa yung presyo na laging ibibigay sa inyo pag magti-trade kayo. No? Iba yung buy price sa sell price. No? Bakit ganun? Well, if you go to a bank or a money changer, mapapansin mo that it's the same thing. No? Kanwari, bibili ka ng dollar, the rate that they will give you is 48 pesos per dollar. No? If you're going to sell dollars to the bank, mapapansin mo mababa yung rate na ibibigay sa'yo, 47.5. No? May difference ng 50 centavos. No? And if you want to count that in pips, it's actually 50 pips. Okay? Bakit may difference? No? To be frank about it, that is your transaction cost. No? The difference between the buy price and the sell price is your transaction cost. The bigger the gap, the bigger your transaction cost. Okay? The closer the gap, the lower your transaction cost. And that gap is called the spread. No, yung spread is the difference between the buy price and the sell price. So, if you're trading online, ganun din yung ating transaction cost. It will be counted as pips. So, for example, dito sa Euro USD natin, if you're just looking at the fourth decimal place, then our selling price is 1.1511 against 1.1513. So, roughly, meron kang 2 pips na difference. And that is your transaction cost. If you buy or sell, no, whatever position you take, you will start out with negative 2 pips. Kaya dun sa mga first-time traders, huwag kayong mag-alala na parang unang pindot nyo lang, unang pindot nyo palang negative na kagad yung trade nyo. Parang sabihin nyo, uy, grabe naman itong market na to, kahit anong pindot ko, simula pa lang negative na. That's because of the spread. Okay? Kasi binabayaran nyo yung transaction cost simula pa lang. So if you start out with negative 2 pips, no, yun na yun, that's the transaction cost. No? Pag umakyat siya ng 100 pips, that's all yours. No? Pag natalo ka ng 50 pips, well, sa'yo din lahat yun. So regardless, it will be deducted at the start. Now, if you want to be stingy about it, the actual spread in this scenario is actually 1.8 pips. So it's less than 2 pips kung isasama mo yung pipet. Okay, it's 1.8 pips. All right. So, yun po yung ating spread. It's very important to know that. And take note, yung spread po, lumalaki yan kapag konti yung nagtitrade sa market. No? If the market doesn't have a lot of volume, lumalaki yung spread so that the broker can give you, kumbaga mas secure yung broker na maibibigay niya yung presyo na yun. So for example, if you trade ng madaling araw or early morning, madalas makikita nyo malaki yung spread niyan. But if you take a look at during London session or New York session, malakas na yung trading activity niyan, mapapansin nyo lumiliit na yung spread. Kaya kung makikita nyo minsan, kapag patapos na yung week, no, mga Saturday na madaling araw yan, nagsasara yung market, mapapansin nyo lumalaki yung spread kasi nababawasan na yung volume of traders. Okay? So take note of that. Okay. Alright. So, any questions so far? Okay pa? Malinaw pa, no? Ngayon naman po, pag-usapan natin yung volume. Volume is kung magkano yung 1 pip na yan. No? Kasi kanina naintindihan natin, okay, pag bumili pala ako makyat, no? Makyat siya by 20 pips, kikita ako 20 pips. No? So magkano ba yung 1 pip na yan? That actually depends on you. You get to decide how much 1 pip is. Okay? And you can decide that by changing the volume. Kasi bago kayo mag-trade, lagi kayong tatanungin, anong volume ang gusto mong i-trade? So in that case, ayan, nakasulat yung volume, no? If you write a volume of 1, bigyan ko na lang kayo ng benchmarks. If you're using a standard account, if you write a volume of 1, we call that one lot or a standard lot. that would be around $10 per pip. Okay? Nasa mga $10 per pip yan. Meaning, if you make 20 pips, then that would be 20 pips times $10. Kikita ka ng $200, which is not bad, no? Pero kung natalo ka naman ng 10 pips, ganun din. Negative 10 pips times $10, talo ka ng $100. So medyo masakit, no? Malaki yung profit, malaki din yung talo. Now you can change that if you like. Kapag ginawa niyo po yung volume nyo na 0.1, then that would be $1 per pip. Okay? Nasa mga $1 per pip yan. Meaning, if you make 20 pips, that's only $20. Kung natalo ka ng 10 pips, that's only a loss of $10. And you can have something in between. Kung gusto mo, kanwari, gusto mo $3 per pip, pwede. Gawin mong 0.3. And that will give you $3 per pip. Now, if $1 per pip is still too big, you can actually lower that if you like. Pwede mo ibaba. On a standard account, the lowest you can go is 0.01 na volume. And that will give you 10 cents per pip. So maliit lang yan. Meaning, if you spend the whole week analyzing the market, may nakita kang isang magandang trade, you take it and you make profit out of it. Sabihin natin, kumita ka ng 50 pips. No? Wow, congratulations. No? Pero pag trade mo lang na volume ay 0.01, then that is 10 cents times 50 pips. You get around $5. Which is, pwede na. No, not bad. And at the same time, kung natalo ka naman, maliit na maliit lang. Let's say you lose 20 pips, then you only lose $2. Very manageable siya. Now, you can also have something in between that if you like. Kanwari, gusto ko 70 cents per pip. Pwede. Then that would be 0.07. Okay? You can even combine that. Sabihin natin, gusto ko, coach, $5.30 per pip. No, wow, very specific. All right, sure. Then you need 0.53. Okay? So, pwede nyo paglaruan yung volume na yan. Now, if you have a small capital, kasi suggestion ko, kung magsa-standard account kayo, siguro yung capital nyo nasa mga $500. Kaya na yan. No? Makakapag-trade na kayo ng maayos-ayos. No? If you have something less than that, then I would suggest you go with a micro account. No? Yung micro account, kumbaga lahat will be converted into cents. Kapag sinulat mo doon volume na 1, imbis na $10 per pip ang lalabas, 10 cents per pip. Pag ginawa mong 0.1, that will give you 1 cent per pip. So kumbaga, you can even trade lower if you like. Anything lower than 0.1, wala na. No, there's nothing lower than 1 cent per pip. So, yun na yun. Okay? Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So, tandaan nyo, kapag standard account yung gamit nyo, yung balance nyo dyan will be in dollars. Pero kung micro account yung gamit nyo, your balance there will be in cents. Okay? So, para hindi malito yung iba. Any questions so far? Okay pa naman, no? So, ngayon po, we'll discuss yung, kumbaga, very elusive topic, no? And that would be leverage, margin, ano ba yung mga yan, no? Free margin. Unahin muna natin yung leverage, no? Yung leverage po, it's a privilege that you can get from the broker, no? And leverage is expressed as a ratio. For example, 1:1 means walang leverage. 10:1 meaning times 10, 50:1 is times 50, 100:1 is times 100, etc., etc. No? Ano ibig sabihin yan? That simply means that you can actually trade more than what your account can normally handle. No? Kapag mas mataas yung leverage mo, you can trade times 10, times 50, times 100, or more of your account. Ngayon, for us to fully appreciate that, we have to understand first, gaano ba kalaking volume talaga yung tinitrade natin whenever we're trading one lot. Okay? If we go back here, makikita nyo po na pag nag-trade ka ng volume na 1, it says here that you're actually trading 100,000 euros. Okay? If you're trading a volume of 1, you're actually trading 100,000 units of the base currency. No? In this case, it's euro. So, ganyang kalaking pera actually yung tinitrade nyo. Kaya naman isang kembot ng market, $10 per pip kagad. Kasi 100,000 euros yung tinitrade mo. Okay? So, if we make some computations off of that, so let me get a clear chart. Yan. Using a standard account, if we have a volume of 1.00, you're actually trading 100,000 units of euro. Now, if you think about it, given the exchange rate of euro USD, sabihin natin yung EU natin is 1.1500. Yan yung current exchange rate, sabihin natin. For us to be able to buy 100,000 units of euros, how much US dollars do we need? So, multiply mo lang naman yan and roughly you actually need 115,000 dollars, no? By the way, you don't need to memorize this part, In-explain ko lang for better appreciation. Okay? So, for you to buy 100,000 units of euro, you actually need 115,000 US dollars. So kung isipin nyo, wait lang coach, wala akong 115,000 US dollars, no, para makapag-trade, no. However, I have, let's say, sabihin natin $10,000, no. Sabihin natin, coach, I have $10,000 in my account. Paano ako makakapag-trade ng one lot ng Euro USD? Kung ito lang yung capital ko, posible ba yon? Yes, that's possible, no? Saka tayo gagamit ngayon ng leverage, no? Yung leverage mo, you can actually multiply your account, no, by the leverage. So sabihin natin kung ang leverage mo ay 1:20, that simply means you can trade up to 20 times, no, of your account. So if you multiply this by 20, you roughly get around $200,000, no? Yun yung kaya mong i-trade. At syempre, yung $115,000 na kailangan mo, pasok na pasok doon. May tira ka pa nga. Yun, ganun pumapasok yung leverage, no? That's what it's for. Clear? Malinaw? Sabihin niyo kung take 2, kasi komplikado yung part na yun. Wala pa tayo sa margin, Leverage pa lang yan. Clear, clear, clear. Dalawa lang yan kung walang nagsasalita. Either gets ang lahat or walang nakagets. Biro lang. Teka lang sa YouTube, Give me a moment kung may mga questions doon. I guess, not sure. Okay, okay, okay. Ano pa naman yan? Kumbaga, pinapakita ko lang sa inyo kung gaano kalaki yung tinitrade nyo ng one lot, no? So, if you trade, sabihin natin 0.1, which is around $1 per pip, ang tinitrade mo dyan actually is only 10,000 lang. 10,000 units lang yan. So, hindi yan 100,000 units. No? So, meaning, if you want to trade 0.1, mas maliit na margin lang yung kailangan mo. No? You need $10,000 so for you to be able to trade one lot. No? Actually, nasa mga 11,500 no? If you use it in US dollars. Okay? And 0.01, you're actually trading 1,000 units lang. So, mas maliit. Okay? Okay. Ang medyo gets, hindi ko saan nakuha yung ratio. Yung ratio given yun Kayo pipili kung anong gusto nyong ratio So 1:10, 1:20, it's your call Whenever you open an account, kayo magsiset Okay. So ito, medyo lalalim tayo ng konti Pwede tayong mawala dito, ayos lang. No? Kumbaga, medyo advanced na to To be honest, if you get this part, maraming mga forex traders hanggang ngayon hindi pa rin to naiintindihan. Hindi ko alam bakit, pero kumbaga, it should be something that they know by now. But dito papasok yung leverage, yung margin. No? Margin is the money you need for you to be able to make that trade. Okay? So, kunwari, gusto ko mag-trade ng Euro USD na one lot. Initially, no? kailangan ko ng $115,000, no? Yun yung computation natin kanina eh. Now, if you want to compute the margin, no, how much money you actually need to open that trade given the leverage you have, this is how you do it, no? Kumbaga ganito siya i-compute. Let's go back to our example kanina, no? Sabihin natin meron tayong one lot na binili na Euro USD, no? So we're trading 100,000 units, no, of euro, and given the exchange rate of 1.1500, we need around $115,000. Okay? Okay. Ngayon, given na alam niyo na kung magkanong pera yung, kumbaga magkanong dollars yung kailangan nyo, you can actually directly apply the ratio. No? Sabihin natin yung leverage mo is 1:100. No? Yan yung leverage mo. Your leverage is 1:100. What you do is you get this amount and you simply divide it by 100. So kunin mo lang kung ano yung ratio mo. Divide mo siya by 100. You will come up with this figure. Sabihin niyo kung tama yung math ko, baka mamaya mali. You actually need $1,150 para ma-execute yung one lot mo ng Euro USD. So this is the margin you need. Meaning, for you to be able to open this trade, you would need at least $1,150 para maka-open ng trade na yan, given a leverage of 1:100. So if you have a higher leverage, the margin requirement will go down. Mas konti yung kailangan. If you put your leverage down, then you would need a higher margin requirement to open the same trade. Malinaw? Yeah, if you want to change your leverage, normally pwede mo naman i-request yan eh, doon sa broker nyo. You don't need to make a new account. You can just simply have it changed. No? Madali sila kausap sa ganyan. Okay, I have a great question here. No? Ano pong reason kung bakit ka pipili ng mas mataas na leverage? No? Or sabihin natin, bakit ka pipili ng mas mababang leverage? Well, kung wala kang leverage na gamit, kailangan mo ng sobrang daming pera para makapag-trade. No? Just to earn a little bit, which sucks. No? Mahirap yun. So you'd need a little bit of leverage. But you don't want your leverage to be too high kasi wala nang silbi yun pag masyadong malaki na, no? It's already too much and the risk becomes too high. Okay? So what you want is a leverage that would be advantageous for you, no? And at the same time, it doesn't stretch your risk very much. So what I suggest is a leverage of around nasa mga 1:25 or 1:30, nasa mga ganyang range, no? A little bit more, a little bit less, but somewhere around that area is our sweet spot. 1:25 or 1:30 would be a great leverage. Bakit? Kasi pag yun po yung leverage natin, physically, marirestrict ka kasi kumbaga kailangan mo ng malaking margin para makapag-trade, no? And that margin would be enough to give you, some sort of medium risk sa market. You cannot take more than that kasi hindi na kaya ng account mo. So that would be a safe number, right? So ito, we have a good question. Is leverage directly proportional to risk? Siguro yung mga iba hindi pa masyadong naiintindihan yan. Alam ko si Ma'am Mera na gets na eh. Pero for the sake of everyone, it's a yes and no answer, no? Yes, it's directly related to risk if malaki din yung volume na tinitrade mo. Kasi tandaan nyo, ang nagagawa lang naman ng leverage, no, is that you can trade a higher volume. But at the end of the day, kayo pa rin naman magdi-dictate kung anong volume ang ititrade nyo. No? So if you don't know how to manage your risk properly, then kailangan mababa yung leverage nyo. Kung hindi pa tayo magaling mag-manage ng risk. So 1:25, 1:30 will do the job. Okay? But if you know how to manage your risk already, then it's okay for you to have high leverage. Marunong naman kayo eh. Kung mababa lang naman yung volume na trade nyo, then it doesn't matter. Right? Okay, I have a good question. Kapag mali yung trade mo, ano po mangyayari sa margin? That's an excellent question. No? Well, normally, meron ka munang, may fund ka muna. So, let me give an example so that it's quite easy to understand. Sabihin natin, yung capital natin, no? Our capital is $1,000. No? You have $1,000 there. And let's say that you decide to trade 0.5 lots of Euro USD. 0.5 of EU. So that will give you around $5 per pip, di ba? 0.5. So yung margin requirement natin dyan, no, let's say, hindi, wait lang. Gawin na lang natin, gawin na lang natin 1 lot kasi ang hirap mag-compute, sorry. Hindi ako ganun kagaling sa math. So, let's say our capital is $1,000, no? Tapos we decide to trade 1 lot of EU, no, Euro USD, which is a terrible idea, no? Kasi masyado mataas yung risk, but for computation's sake, try natin. No? So this is around $10, no, per pip. So, sabihin natin, yung margin na nagamit natin, no, is around $500. Okay? So, we needed a margin. Yan yung MI, lagay ko na lang, margin. So, kinailangan natin ng margin na $500 to be able to make that trade. No? So, ngayon, meron tayong floating trade na 1 lot with Euro USD. What happens here is that you still have your $1,000. No? Ang mangyari lang, itatabi lang ng konti yung $500 mo. Okay? So, that will be written off as margin. Okay? Ngayon, ang makikita mo sa account mo ngayon is magkakaroon ka din ng $500 na free margin. Sa Friday, mapapakita ko sa inyo yan sa platform. Ano ibig sabihin ng free margin? Free margin is the margin or money left for you to be able to make new trades. So, kumbaga yun yung natitirang pera na pwede ka pang magbukas ng mga bagong trade. Kapag na-use up mo na lahat ng free margin mo, hindi ka na makakapagbukas ng bagong trade until you close the other trades. Okay? Kasi pag sinara mo tong trade na to, matatanggal na yung margin na 500, babalik na ulit yan sa free margin. Okay? So you can use it again. Alright? So yun yung unang mangyayari. Now, what if kumita yung trade? No? Let's say from 1,000, you earn $200. Then, your margin will still be 500 and then yung free margin mo ngayon magiging 700 na. Mas malaki na, di ba? So that's a good thing. Pero paano pag natalo? Okay. So sabihin natin, from $1,000, natalo ka ngayon ng 200. What will happen there? Your margin will still be the same and your free margin will become now $300. Bababa na yung free margin mo. Okay? Tapos makikita mo yung equity sa account mo, meaning yung total money mo with the profits and losses will only be 800. Okay? So okay pa, buhay pa yung trade mo. What if you now have a floating loss of 500? What will happen then? Ang mangyari is mauubos na ngayon yung free margin mo. So you cannot make any more trades. Yung margin mo will still be intact there. Tapos yung equity mo, 500 na lang kasi meron ka ng minus $500 yan. Now, what if you lose more? Anong mangyari? Paano pag nagagalaw na tong margin mo? Pwedeng magalaw pa yan. Sabihin natin, matalo ka ng total of $700. Okay? Doon sa floating trade mo na yan. Yung margin mo, nababawasan na yan. Ang mangyari na lang ay $300 na lang yung margin mo. So, naapektuhan na. Diyan na po papasok yung margin call. Okay? Maybe some of you have heard of it. Margin call is an automated thing na ginagawa ng broker. Na kapag nag-dip yung margin mo to a certain level, for example, it dips down 50%, 30%, depende sa broker nyo, it will automatically cut yung pinaka, I think, oldest position or biggest position, iisa-isahin niyang isasara yun forcibly. Bakit niya ginagawa yun? So that hindi ka magkakaroon ng utang. Kasi baka mamaya yung trade mo talagang bumagsak, no? Let's say it goes down to negative 900. Before that happens, i-out na niya lahat ng mga positions mo doon. Okay? Para hindi ka umabot ng talagang ubos yung account. Okay? Pero pag na-margin call ka, medyo ubos na rin talaga. So wag na tayo umabot sa ganun, ha, please. I'm sure that some of the traders here have already experienced that. Ako, I've experienced that so many times nung nagsisimula ako. So wag na sana tayo umabot sa ganun. Okay? It's a terrible feeling. No? Pero generally, yan yung nangyayari dun sa computations. Is that clear? Malinaw? I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just trying to give it as real as possible. Okay? Pero syempre, pag umakyat naman yan, lalaki yung profit, lalaki margin, good things happen, etc. etc. So, kaya naman po, yung $1,000 na yan, we definitely will not trade one lot. No, that's too high. Ang ideal natin dyan would only be a maximum of 0.1 na volume lang. Yan lang yung maximum natin kapag $1,000. We'll talk more about that during our risk management session. Okay? Malinaw po? Everything clear so far? Or medyo dumugo na tayo dun sa math? Yung math naman na yan, you don't need to compute for it manually ha. Kasi automatic na ginagawa ng platform yan eh. But I'm just showing you para ma-appreciate lang natin, we actually get to understand bakit ba lumalabas yung mga numbers na yun. How are they able to compute for it? Okay? Because, again, marami ng traders who have been trading for a long time who still do not understand that part. Okay? It's a boring part, but very necessary in my opinion.